Hi, I'm Alex, your host, and this is No Code World Radio, in which I travel the world to meet the most interesting people in the no-code space. After Amsterdam, I take the train to Cologne to meet with Lilith from VisualMakers.de. From what I saw on Twitter, they seem to be doing something very similar to what we're doing back in France, but in German. So it's going to be very interesting to have a chat with her and finally get more information about the German no-code community. This is episode 3 of season 1 of the No Code Radio podcast. Hi Lilith, thanks a lot for taking the time to meet me here in Cologne. It's a beautiful day, so we decided to record this episode in the park, which is very nice, and especially since I had a little bit too many beers last night, so the fresh air really helps, but we don't need to talk about that. Instead, could you please introduce yourself for the listeners?
Yes, of course. I'm so glad that you are here. I'm Lilith. I'm 27 years old. I live in Cologne, and Cologne is a beautiful city, not architecture-wise, but people-wise, like you probably experienced last night.
I did definitely.
Should I already talk about like how I came to no code and so on?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because that's a funny story, because 6 years ago, I didn't have a clue at all about tech. I couldn't even do Excel, probably.
What did you do before?
I wanted to be an actress, actually.
Okay.
Yes.
We always say that people have a lot of different backgrounds in no code. Actress is the first time I say, I think. So.
Yeah, I actually wanted to be an actress, and I applied for over 3 years. I applied for acting schools in Germany, Austria, and in Switzerland. Also one time in the UK. And when I got into the final rounds, I needed a job over the summer because I used to work in a concert hall, and they didn't have that much concerts in the summer. So I needed a job to get over the summer. And that's how I landed in the startup world at my first company as a working student back then. And then I started like this typical startup journey, like from social media to key account manager to project manager to eventually to product manager, actually. And that's how I found my way into tech, basically.
Yeah.
And we used to work a lot with Zapier and Airtable and so on. And that was my world of no code, kind of. I thought Zapier was no code, and that was it.
Okay.
And then I started. Eventually I was responsible for all our websites, our automations, our processes, and I loved it. And I'm pretty glad that I took this way and not the acting way in the end. And then I started to teach my team how Zapier works and about no-code automation, and kind of enable them to build their own automations, because I couldn't know, as a tech lead, I couldn't know about all the problems they had or all the repetitive tasks they would have. So I teach them, and then I started blogging about it, and there was so much response coming from other people. And then I discovered the no-code community and was like, okay, wow, there is so much more than just Zapier out there. And that was kind of my way in.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. It's a great story. How would you define no-code? What's no-code for you?
I really like that question. So I think actually no-code is the wrong term, because for me, no-code is another programming language that is just more accessible to a lot more people. And also with the, it has some pros, some cons. Like with some tools, you can't do a lot, but the essential stuff and so on. But on the other hand, it also has a lot of pros, like you can build much faster, and tools like Bubble, by example, are also like you can build almost anything with them. So I think of it as another programming language, and because behind every no-code tool is also the code. The UI is kind of just different.
Definitely. Okay. So can you tell us what you do now, really, with where you went from blogging to the company you were working for, and how you decided to launch your own projects and all this?
Yes. I'm now I founded kind of my own no-code startup, not a no-code tool startup, but we're building. I'm the co-founder of VisualMakers, and we're building the German community or German-speaking community for no-code. So we have a platform where we do online courses and a podcast and blogs and webinars and all that stuff. And you can subscribe for us for a yearly subscription, or it's a subscription model, and that's what we do with VisualMakers to enable a lot more people to build their own software, even if they can't code at all, like I used to do.
So you have a very broad, I would say, coverage of no code, like really like all the automation side, and also like more the product launching part. So what are the tools, for instance, that you have on your courses, or what's you discuss in the community?
So my co-founder and I kind of contribute to each other when it comes to cool tools. So my part is more the automation part with Zapier. That's the tool that I started with. And then I got to Integromat, but also tools like Workato or Parabola. But I would say Integromat is the one I use the most. And for my co-founder, Alex, he's more on the product side, as you said, and he's doing a lot with Webflow, with Airtable, with Softer, which we really like. Is also a great startup from Berlin, and but also Bubble and so on. So it's quite broad actually, and most of the time, or right now, it is like that everything we build, we can kind of show in our courses, everything we build ourselves. So our platform is built in Webflow with Outsetter, which is a membership login. And every time we build something, we can actually put it in a course. So that's pretty cool.
It's it's a double impact on whatever you do. You can document and share and have content, and then it's kind of recursive. It's pretty good. So what kind of people are in your community? Is your community only your clients, or you're the members of the platform, or is it a bit larger and there's like some people can be in the community for free but don't have access to the course? Or
yes. So in the VisualMakers community, first of all, we have two plans, which is a basic plan, which is for free, and a pro plan, which is for where you pay yearly subscription or monthly subscription. And so as a pro member, you have more access to more courses and also to talk with us as the founders and so on. So that is our core community, which will have a Slack workspace where people exchange with each other and so on. And there are a lot of different people. We have many people from teams, actually, like HR managers that are looking to automate their recruiting process. Or we have marketing managers that are looking to automate their marketing game, kind of. But we have also founders who build a product, or product managers who actually want to learn more about no-code to build faster and better iterate their new features, and so on. Also, people who are looking to build internal tools and not build them themselves from scratch, but actually build them faster and a lot less expensive. And so it's very diverse. And then, of course, we have, because in Germany, there's not that much of a community yet, or a no-code community yet, like it is in the US or in the generally English-speaking world. So we're building that with our social media reach as well. And there's pretty diverse as well. So there are people from anywhere, from the startup world, but also from corporates, from SMEs, and so on, looking actually or being interested in no-code.
Yeah. And so you were telling me right before also, so you have the community part, the courses, but then also you have clients. Then we'll that different, like more like a agency type client. What kind of project do you take? What kind of clients also? Is it a bit the same?
We're just beginning with our second brand actually, which will be No Code One. It's the agency part, and the projects we did so far are like a mixture of internal tool that the employees can work more efficient and better, and kind of interconnect all the stakeholder points kind of with each other. That was one project, and the other one is, by example, automations in different areas, in different teams, like the recruiting automation actually, like where you build a funnel with a landing page builder, and then interconnect it with tools like Personio, which is kind of a big HR tool here in Germany, and so it's really diverse, especially the automation part. It's kind of that we all can do productized services eventually, because a lot of people are also asking the same, like with the recruiting funnel. Yeah. But also stuff like tool directories, or so, where you build a like for accelerators and VCs, that you have just directories of, by example, investors or so on, and where you build a landing page with software and have your base in Airtable, your database, and it's just really easy to connect also the internships and the interns who work at these companies, that it's really easy for them to adapt. So stuff like that.
Okay, and I lost my question. No, I was okay, I get it. Do you also teach the people? I mean, it's okay because there is you can set up all the automations. You will come as a consultant. You understand what they need. You set it up, and then you leave, and that's it. Or do you also teach them and maybe empower them and?
That's the whole point, kind of our way, or how we want our agency works, because we want to build that the automations or products or whatever they want to have built, but we also have a big onboarding part to teach them how to use it, and how to enable them to not having to call us for every single item they want to have changed. For big things, of course, and they always come back.
No, it's interesting, because I think there is a need for consulting and experts, of course. But for me, really, I mean, I would have been disappointed if you were saying that you wouldn't train the people, because I think that's really also the promise. It's like you can empower. So, of course, especially in the context of a company, it's good to have an expert start a setup to analyze maybe the business case. But then I think if the people are not able to change the tools, if they're still dependent to a consultant or something, like, we don't solve anything, you know.
Yeah.
Or we don't solve, I think, like the one of the issue I think is really like the agency locking in, you know, their clients. Like, there's a lot of people who are talking about vendor locking, you know, in the no-code space, and like, okay, if you build something with Bubble, you're locked with it. But I think people always mistake and confuse that with actually, I think, which is way worse, and that has been happening for a long time in the traditional agency business, is like being locked to a vendor, not a vendor, but to an agency that has used tools that you don't know, they don't want to share, you know, and they're just like, and they're very happy if you call them to make modification, and they will charge you for it, and you know, and I think it's just sad, and that's one of my motivation actually to train people in no code. So
also my personal mission is to show people that a tech is not something fearful, where you kind of have to, or how do you say, not to kind of to lose the fear of tech, because when you write code, right, it kind of looks so weird, and you kind of are, or most of the people I got to know who looked at code was like, yeah, well, okay, I don't understand this. I can't even touch this. And when I miss a semicolon or something like that, yeah, well, I break everything, and then we have to search like 4 or 5 days for where the mistake was.
Yeah.
And I think no code for me is also a lot about losing the fear of tech and having it, thinking about it as a more playful and creative thing, and where you actually think more about the solution than about or you think about the problem, of course, but more about the solution and not so much about
how you're going to build it, but really
Yes.
like what it's going to be.
Yes.
No, it's true. I think the fact that all those tools are being more attractive, that's really one of the things we see. Like when we train people, is like they're afraid of pushing a button or something. Like, and we have to tell them, like, don't worry, you're not going to break the internet. Like, do it, play with it, and it's true that with code, it's tough because anything you do, you can you won't break anything, but still, you can. It's it's like a playground. I think like most no-code tools are very, very nice for that. And no, you're right. I think that there's a real mission also to enable people to get more in touch, understanding what the web is, what the internet is, and not just because also it's I don't know. This is a bit of a different discussion, but I think it's the internet hasn't been what it was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's very centralized now. It's like all those big corporations that have all our data.
Yeah.
And I think maybe we can fight this a little bit with no code, but at least what we can do is also just making people understand how this works and be more sensitive about those issues. I think that's maybe idealistic.
but I like that, because I think also, I mean, there's a lot more about no code to discuss what it actually does to people. But yeah, I think it's in that sense, it's also a lot about giving back the power to the people, because they can actually understand. I mean, when I started with Zapier, I had no idea about how to send data from A to B, transform it to be able to send it to C, and so on, right?
Yeah.
And I really had to, but in a very playful way, I learned about how does a database work with actually Airtable, and how does an API work, and how do I had one Zap that I took from my predecessor who built that whole stuff, but he was more of a developer, and he sent some I think it was some JSON files to some API, and it was building stuff with Zapier, like all the normal stuff with his normal modules. And then I got to this point, but at that point I was already in this playful and okay, I can do this. Let's just try it out. And so I started to change like really small things and see what does it change in the outcome. And so that's how I kind of was able to create my own JSON files to send it to that API. And I actually understood it in the end. So, and that was pretty powerful for someone who just didn't know how to deal with Excel. So, yeah. Yeah,
no, it's true. That's a great story. That's one of the things I like with Integromat. It's very visual. When you see the execution, in front of you, like all the modules and, the numbers appearing. And I think that's pretty magic. You don't get that feeling with Zapier. As much as I like Zapier and I think it's the best tool for beginners.
Yeah.
But you don't get this little bit of excitement of also Integromat, just, the fact that you can build, it's very visual, like those modules, and you can rearrange them. But I really like the execution.
Yeah. When you see where the data is right now and how
exactly
it's going through. That's true. But actually, I have to admit, I had a really long love-hate relationship with Integromat. I love it now, but it was a long way until then, because when you start with Zapier, and I think I always like to say that Zapier kind of feels like it was built from product managers, because it kind of talks to you as a human. There's a great video from a Pixel Geek, I think he's called. And it's so funny how he talks about it. because he's like, okay, yeah, Zapier talks to you as a human and it explains to you step by step how you build things. And I mean, you're pretty limited because it's so linear and so on. But if you're used to it, it's really pretty easy to build stuff. And then when you come to Integromat, it's first of all like webhook. And you think like, oh, what is a web? Well, if you worked with Zapier before, you probably know what a webhook is. But it's like, what should I do? What do you want from me? And it's really funny, that video. So
I need to watch it actually, because I really agree. I think Zapier, when you read just everything that's on screen, it's like it really guides you. Yeah. And there are stuff that are technical, but I think a lot of people use Zapier without ever getting to the webhooks, because there's just so many integrations. There's, I don't know, I think there's 3,000. 3,000 right now, or maybe even more.
3 or 4.
Yeah, they raise, they go very fast. And so in the end, usually, I think that's one of the cool things for beginners, is that you never have to really care about APIs. But APIs is a very important subject, as you were saying. It's one of the things people need to be educated about. But Zapier does a great job at first to kind of hide it from you. And then when you want to level up, you go through Integromat, and then Integromat, I think, is the best tool to work with APIs. Yes. I think it's much easier than Zapier.
And it's much more powerful, actually. It has a lot more functions than Zapier, and you can build lot more complex things than in Zapier, let alone the internal tools like the iterator, the aggregator, and all that stuff. It's so powerful what you can do with it once you understood it. In the beginning, it can be a pain, and it's not as easy as Zapier, but when you take the time and learn it, it's really, really powerful, and it gets this kind of magic.
No, definitely. Yeah, I like that you say that, because it's. I feel like in the no-code space and like the experts now, Integromat has become like one of the favorite tools. At least in France, I don't know. Maybe I'd be curious to hear somewhere else. And so sometimes people tell us like, why do you train people with Zapier? Integromat is much more powerful, and I mean, hopefully we will also make a class with Integromat. But people fail to understand that Integromat is just too difficult. What you're saying, I think, is true for beginners. And like people who are passionate about no code, at some point you tend to forget about when you were a beginner or other people, and you have the skills. So you're like, okay, let's just talk about the powerful tools. But I think Zapier is powerful, but it's true at some point you might feel limited. But I don't know. For me, it's such a. I mean, you really said it well. It really gives for the non-technical people, the access to a new world, pretty much. What are the other tools that you like, that you use?
I really like Webflow. It's kind of one of the first tools that I got to know for product, actually, and I really like. I think it's also a great tool to teach you how the web works, because on the left side in the designer, you have on the left side your layout, which is your HTML. That's what you do first, and then on the right side you have your not sure how it's called, but the design kind of thing, which is your CSS, and then in the end you put the actions on it, which is the Java. So it's pretty great to learn the structure of code. And I think, of course, you can still build wrongly, I would say, with no code.
Of course, yeah.
But it kind of makes it much easier to be structured. And so that's a pretty great tool. And one tool I really, really like, which is a small tool, is Bannerbear, where you kind of, it's a graphic or an API for graphics, where you kind of build your own. It's great for product pictures, by example, for e-commerce, where you can just send the little picture and a text and so on to the API in the picture, and you build a template, and then you can just exchange automatically
to generate like covers for YouTube or things like that. Also, I think it's we used it quite a lot. Yeah, and I don't know, you probably follow also the founder can't remember his name. I don't want to pronounce it bad, but he's super interesting. He's sharing everything about his journey.
Yeah,
he's really like a really great maker. I mean, he did quite a lot of things before, but this one is really the one that picked up, and I think it's a great tool.
Yes.
Some people say it's a bit expensive, which I think I might agree, but I think as often people fail to see that it's a business tool.
Yeah.
If you cannot afford it, well, maybe it's just that you don't have the business for it. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, it would be great. It's free. We want everything to be free. But I mean, when you read that I say that because when you read about the guy all is sharing, you really understand. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And like he has to live of it. I think only recently they managed to get his MRR, to a level that he can live of it. I think it took him a while, so it's
yeah, definitely. And I wonder why Canva and so on didn't kind of copy it yet, because I mean they would be the ones who should do it, but they're not doing it. So Bannerbear is still the tool.
Yeah. Well, I found another one actually. That is price-wise, it's pretty much the same, but it's just a bit different. It's called Abyssal. Abyssal. Yeah.
I heard from that. Yeah.
So, but I don't know. I think it's fairly similar in terms of it's just a little cheaper, but I don't know. It doesn't really change anything. No, but yeah. And I also don't understand why Canva is very popular now.
Yeah.
But they should do like this kind of, I don't know. Maybe it's not their market. Also, yes, I don't know.
Maybe not.
Just want to keep it simple, but yeah, there's a need for some alternatives that are more integrated in what you use every day. Yeah. Because the thing is, like, you have to use Bannerbear in addition to everything else that you use. So
yes.
But yeah, it's a great tool. Any other recommendation, something like that you like?
I'm exploring Notion right now, but Notion is, of course, I mean, in the no-code. If you're in a no-code space, so you already know Notion.
There's a debate: is Notion a no-code tool? That's a real debate.
Of course, it is, because you built your own software in a kind of way, and even if it's just a Kanban board. So I would also say I'm totally not a Trello fan, but Trello is kind of also a no-code tool. The same with HubSpot and so on. But I come more from the automation space, and that's why it counts for me as a no-code tool, because that's the tools that I connect with my no-code automation tool. So it kind of is also no-code for me, but I understand why there's a big discussion.
No, but it's funny because, like, I don't know, I'm not sure, like, I think it doesn't really matter in the end. I think Notion is a great tool, so it doesn't matter what's the label. But what you were saying, I like what you said about that you build your own software with it, because I really get this realization. It's hard to talk English today. Sorry. A few days ago, actually, with a French no-coder I met in Brussels, Jérémy, that is really an expert with Notion, and he really showed me this use of building, because I use Notion a lot, but I use it for taking notes. I build my own little system, of course, for the project management, but I didn't see it as a building really. And he showed me like the way he uses it. And yeah, it's exactly that. You have your own internal tool, or you can have several of them, and Notion is just the builder.
Yeah.
I think they're missing a few functionalities for it to.
Well, a big one was the API, I think.
True.
And that was released a month ago or so.
Well, it's still, I think, fairly limited, but yeah. I understand also that they don't want to rush too much and do something disappointing, but...
Well, I mean, in their case, it's pretty complicated also to build an API that accesses everything you build in it, because it's just
true. That must
custom.
Be a nightmare, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's true. It's so flexible. Yeah,
and so how can you possibly build an API for exactly the point everyone needs, because it's just so different all the time.
Yeah, representing a page and the blocks inside the blocks and all this without through data, it's quite a challenge.
But I also get some other tools that I really, really like. One of the most that kind of overwhelmed me was Levity. Levity is a startup from Berlin. And they kind of take the next step in no code. They not only revolutionizing how software is built, but how AI and machine learning can be used by everyone, even if you're not a programmer. So they kind of, basically you can build your own machine learning. It's not directly AI, that's another discussion, but so by example for how do you say that? The housing market. When you have a portfolio of a flat or many flats, and then you can build your own AI where you see or where the AI sees which is a living room and which is a bathroom and so on. So you just give it lots and lots of pictures, and then every time the AI is not sure, and you can also decide how precise the AI should be. And every time the AI is not sure what it is, then you get a Slack message, a Slack bot, and it shows you the image, and you can say what it is without leaving Slack. And then or for example, like looking up invoices, because every invoice kind of looks different, and then you have to see, okay, where is what, and stuff like that. So, and that is so great. It's just taking no code to the next level. You can also connect it to Zapier and Google Sheets and Airtable and so on. So that is the one that impressed me the most, I think.
I will be in Berlin next week, so I will try maybe to. You said they were in Berlin?
Yes.
Maybe to try to meet with them. I'm really looking forward to meet the people of from Software in Berlin. What do you think about NA10?
NA10.
I don't know how to pronounce it actually, because in France we say NV10. You know,
we had Jan, the founder, in our podcast just last week.
Okay, nice.
Actually, it's. I discovered N8N not so long ago, actually. It's like half a year probably a bit more, but
it's still fairly recent. I think they started 2 years ago, but I mean, at first it was almost nothing. I mean, it takes time to...
In 2019, I think they started. And I think it's pretty interesting, actually, because it's open source, and you install it on your own servers. They have now a cloud solution too, and on your let alone installing it on your own server. So it's really more for technical people, I would say. It's not that much for people who have no idea about coding at all, because you have to be able to install it on your own server. So that's the first big kind of step you have to take. But then I think it's a pretty interesting way to think about no code and automating stuff. And it's pretty powerful because you can, again, as someone technical, you can also build your own nodes. Nodes are the modules they kind of work with that you interconnect with each other. So it's really, really flexible, but you have to know what you're doing. So it's kind of not, they also say, Jan said that they're not really seeing Zapier, by example, as
a competitor?
As a competitor, that was the word I searched for. Because it's just a completely different target group.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think it would be more like, I don't know, like how when we talk about it, usually we always say Zapier is the first step. Then maybe you go to Integromat if you feel limited, and then you go to N8N. That's in my mind, because I think it's closer to Integromat in terms of those nodes, the nodes part, but it goes even a step further. And I really like that, it's literally visual programming. I mean, it's like you have a node that is a if, and then you connect it to one condition and then to something else. But it does require a bit of technical skills. But I think also it's still a young project. And I think some parts that are right now a bit complicated, for instance, accessing data, things like that, I think they will get also easier as much as when they develop the product. I'm sure they will try to, or I don't know, maybe they they won't, and they will keep it like this. But some things, I don't know. I think they can work a little bit on the UI or UX more, and just to make it a bit more accessible if they want to. But that could be a choice also, as you said. They can just try to take a different target, and but I'll be curious to talk about that.
Me too. I mean, they just recently got a big investment, so really curious to see what they're going to do with it. And
as far as I know, it's the biggest open source no-code project. For what I've seen, so it's good also that they're showing a path, I think, because I'm very attached to open source, and I think it's a bit a shame that in the no-code space there's not much in this. I've recently tried Base Row. I don't know if you heard of that, but it's so far away from Airtable. It's nice. I appreciate the effort, but it's just too early, I think.
Yeah. It was interesting. We talked with Jan about the podcast is in German, so I'm going to talk about it a little bit in here. We talked with Jan about the whole open source thing, and he said technically they're actually not open source. He likes to claim it like that, and that's also their marketing story. But he got a lot of critics who said you're not really open source because it's not. I forgot which standard
license,
it was.
Maybe.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
But it's a lot about fair code. And he's really in this fair code movement where he says okay, I want to be open about it, and it's a lot like open source. So open source kind of is a part of it, I think, as I understood it. But I really like this concept about fair code. So
okay, that's interesting. I didn't really see that. So I'll take the chance to ask him. Talking about your podcast, so I guess you have like editors and of no-code solutions. Do you also have like entrepreneurs?
Yes. So we have we want to invite guests that are from totally different spaces from the no-code space, because I really like to listen also to the MakerPad podcast. In the beginning, eventually I found it a little bit exhausting because the quality of the
okay, thank you for saying that. No, because honestly I can't listen to it just because of that. I'm not gonna lie,
it's a shame, because I mean these talks are really interesting, but you just can't listen to it because it's so exhausting. So
I don't understand why. Like, I don't know. If I ever meet Ben, I will ask him.
Yes, please.
But because he has access to great people.
Yes.
So why, it's almost like, I don't know, say, it's not very respectful of the guest,
No.
Okay, well, we won't comment on that, but thanks for saying that.
So Ben, if you're listening, get yourself a microphone.
I hope to meet him. I've met him very briefly in San Francisco 2 years ago at the No-Code Conf. But I'm hoping for this podcast I will have a chance to. So I will ask him.
Please do. But what I wanted to say was, even in the MakerPad podcast, he was talking to the founders of no-code tools. So, and that was pretty interesting. But I really wanted to hear about people who use no-code and not only build that. So we decided to do both, to have guests that build with no-code, so founders, entrepreneurs, but also team members from corporates or so that use no-code in their daily life, and talk about that. But also, or product managers or so on. So pretty interesting talks about that, but also founders of no-code tools. So like Jan from NNN we had, or Thilo from Levity, which I just talked about. So it's kind of a mix of both, and it's always pretty interesting to see both sides, and also then be able to talk with the guests about their side, and then also mirror them the other side. Definitely.
Do you have a good story of German, because they say it's all in German, so the guest entrepreneurs, for instance, so there are German businesses, I guess, or projects. Do you have a good story to share from someone who successfully used some no-code tools to launch a project or something like
that? So far, a few, because Germany is not that far with no-code yet. It's kind of the phase of, feels like we're 5 years, probably 5 years behind. It's like right now this phase of, there's something where we can build more efficient with and so on. So there's a lot of skepticism too right now, but we have two startups which are also in our community, which are kind of pharmaceutic. It's not really pharmaceutic, but it's kind of in the medical sector. One is from two girls who built a platform or an app for women in their 50s to deal with. I'm not sure how it's called in English, but in German it's Wechseljahre, so or menopause or something like that. So that kind of helps women to get through that phase, which I find pretty interesting because the founders are so young and develop an app with that, which is has very sensitive data, and to build that with no code is pretty cool. Then another one is this app is called Femfeel. They're from Stuttgart, and the other one that I really like is the Apartmento, I think are they called. I have to look it up again, and they are doing interior design for single men.
Okay, that's a very specific niche.
It's pretty niche, but it's actually great business. Kind of like it works a bit like Outfittery. So you kind of say what your style is and what your budget is and how big your flat is and which room you wanna design, and then they with machine learning and AI they give you kind of a list of or some mood boards where you can click on the image and see the products in there, and that's built with no-code too. That's pretty cool. And Remy SO is a startup that
they're in Berlin, no? They raised money. I remember seeing that.
Yes. And they are building with Bubble. A platform that is supposed to help remote teams to deepen their culture.
And the co-founders, they've really been building themselves, I think. Yes. It's two girls, no, something like that.
Yeah, two girls. They just got a technical co-founder. Rebecca was also in our podcast.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I was, someone from the French community sent it to me because I told him I was going to Berlin. And I think that would be interesting seems like, because I remember reading on her Twitter that she was very pushing about no code and saying how it enabled them to really to do their project and things like that. So it's nice. So it's I'm asking the question because we don't have also many really great success stories in France so far. I mean, right now there's a lot of people being trained or making things with no code, but we have yet to have great story that will also help pushing the movement, I think. So that's why I was curious, but I think we're in the same stage. And obviously, on a more international scale, there are some good stories. But I don't know, even like I had a chance to interview twice Emmanuel from Bubble, since it's French. And he always, he doesn't have really great, success stories of people using Bubble,
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's always sharing the same things. There is one company that's doing student loans, and so they process several billions through the Bubble app. But I don't know, it's never mentioned really something. But
interesting.
We will have to find it ourselves.
Probably it's gonna take some time still.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
I'm also not sure. I'm always saying Germany is a little bit behind because I see. I mean, but I'm also in a no-code bubble, right? So also from France. Of course, I see all the no-code people posting. So I feel like there's a lot going on in all the other countries around.
Yeah.
But I mean, I only
think
see
it's
Bubble.
Even internationally, I think it's still there was this story I think last year of a Japanese app built on Adalo that was sold to a bigger company. So every once in a while you see something, but it's never really that impactful. But I think it will come. Yeah. And then when it will come, there will be a lot, because I think right now there's a lot of people that are building with no code. and we don't know yet. But
and the question is if that's not the same with code as well. If it's kind of the same percentage of apps, because so many more people build with regular code.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not that different after all.
No, it's true. We'll see. We will be here to comment on that and follow all this. Well, thank you for all sharing all this with us. So you were telling us about the community, so your community. Do you know if there's any other things in Germany in general happening? Oh, I mean, I was also wondering about meetups and things like that, but I mean, fortunately, due to COVID, I think there's. But before COVID, was there already some things happening, or?
Well, I started to go public with no code just briefly before COVID came. So, no, it was actually in COVID times already. So, I only heard about it. So I know there was a meetup, a no code meetup in Hamburg. Which was quite big, and we had the second Digital Revolution conference, which was online then, also from Berlin, but they're for the English speaking communities too. So they're just based in Germany, and we have a few agencies that do a lot with no code, but don't really label it as that. Some do, but like Webflow agencies or Bubble agencies or cloud automation agencies. That's how they call it. But not that much of a community yet.
Okay.
So it's kind of weird. It feels like we're the first ones right now.
Yeah, and you could be the only one. That would be fine. It's I don't know. I mean, that's kind of how it started in France, and then it was our community of our company. But then we decided to rebrand it and to open it and to share the ownership, and it became No Code France, and now it's like it has become so big that no one is going to launch another one.
Yeah,
which was kind of our point. It's not to say, okay, this is us, but it's just like, this is the kind of thing where the mass makes sense. Like the more people you have, the more impact you can have and the more discussions you can have. And so, I think that would be nice, because I have a secret dream I have to share with you. It's like, I would like to have that we do a sort of no code community federation, like between the countries, because I think like those things are really, it's important to do it in your own language. I think that's what makes the strength of our community. It would be the same. And the international community is fine, but it's like, but I think I'm not nationalistic at all, but that, it's nice to be, but I'd like to have connections, so connections between German no code and France and Switzerland and Spain, and we can have things like everyone is in their own language, and then we can gather and see what are the differences, so I don't know, you have to keep me posted on the progress, and so we can do something like this.
Yes, I love the idea.
So that would be cool. Last question. We're in Cologne, and you're from here, you know the city very well. What can you tell us about the city, like working here a little bit? And and I have another question, but I will ask after, because I tend to ask too many questions at the same time, and I think it's disturbing. So one question after the other.
All right. So as said in the beginning, I think Cologne has a perfect size. It's not too big and not too small. So it's not like in Berlin or France or Paris where you get kind of I don't know, you need an hour from one point to the other, and you are not even through half the city. So that's pretty cool that you can do everything by bike. In 20 minutes, you're kind of in the inner city. You're from one point to the other pretty fast. So I really like that. So, and in terms of working, what exactly do you mean by that?
I mean, no, I'm curious about more like if someone was considering, for instance, Cologne for remote work or being here? Is there like well, I guess with the COVID, it's all kind of weird, but like co-working spaces, places to. Do you have an office, or
right now
I
kind of share an office.
Okay.
So we have a few really cool co-working spaces, which are really different. Also, we have one, the Stadtplatz, which is right around the corner here, is pretty great because it's really it's kind of a hot pot for startups and people who are interested in entrepreneurship and so on. So it's really for starters actually, and it's a great network that you get there. Other one is we have a WeWork, of course. Second one will be built. Will be ready in half a year, I think. So they're pretty cool as well. But that's WeWork. I mean, the community is cool. Then we have other ones that are children friendly as well, and we have
that's interesting.
Yes, that's really nice too. And we have other ones that are really, really nicely designed in a really old building, and it's really, really nice. So
you need to send me the addresses, so I will put them in the notes of the.
Yeah, definitely.
That would be nice. I want this podcast, to be a little bit of a travel guide, also.
Yeah,
just a little bit, but.
In general, I would say Cologne is a great city to travel to and to live in, even if it's just for a while, because especially the people just there. So. Cologne is not that beautiful architecture-wise, but the people are really open, and it's really easy to make new friends.
That's cool when you travel, and so when you come somewhere to live for a little bit, or it's very nice to have a chance to meet people, and not just through the network and the tech-related things, but also just in the regular life.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty cool. So, what's your favorite thing to do? If you had one thing to share, with someone who comes to visit, so there's one thing they should do, which is not going to see the cathedral, I think.
Well, that's one point. I think when you're in Cologne, you should do that definitely. But it's the most obvious one. That's true. I would say, one thing. That's a tough one. Probably walk by the Rhine, kind of in the old city and have an ice cream, and then go into one of the, how are you saying English, Brauhaus, where you get beer, and then have a conversation with one of the waiters, which are called Kübis here, and they're very unfriendly. Or they're not unfriendly. They're I'm
French, so honestly, I wasn't. I found them very normal here, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, they always kind of joke around and so on. So that's pretty fun. And
so there's a beer, like the local, can't remember what's the name, the Kölsch, and it's always served in very small glasses, or small glasses.
Yeah,
it's but then you have, and they come all the time, and they ask you.
And if you don't put the thingy that you put underneath the glass,
coaster, I think you call that.
Coaster, yeah. If you don't put that on top of your glass, you always got.
That's how it works. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, it's good to know. It can be tricky. Okay, well, perfect. It's a perfect.
Do you know why the glasses are so small? Because people.
That's actually what I wanted to ask. But,
people always laugh about how small the glasses are, but it's actually pretty cool because then your beer doesn't get old because you drink it kind of so fast that it's always fresh, no matter how much is in there. So it's the perfect size to always have a fresh beer.
No, it's true. It makes sense as long as they come often to replace it, or because like in France it takes you 10 minutes to order something because the waiters never see you or they don't want to. I'm a bit exaggerating because I think service is fine in France, but yeah, it's still it's it's a pain in the ass, like
Yeah.
to order. So you prefer to have a pint, and then and then once you want another, it's okay. No, but I will. I don't know if I will try it again tonight, but but it's I really enjoy that.
Well, now you have the power to say no. So
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for this. And I'm looking forward to see what you will do and what is going to happen in Germany. You have to keep me updated on this. And best of luck for all your projects. And hopefully we'll have a chance to. You should come to Paris. I need to invite all the people I meet. I need to invite them in Paris, and then we'll have so you can see also what's the French community is like.
Yes, I'd love to.
Cool.
Thanks so much for having me on the podcast.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode until the end. I hope the quality of the sound was okay since we recorded in the park, but I really enjoyed that moment. And we're very lucky to have fantastic weather. As Lilith said, people are super friendly in Cologne, and especially in the summer days, you should just hang out in the parks with a friendly attitude, and you will quickly meet some people, especially if you hang out in the western part of the city, and I think it's called the Belgian Quarter, for instance. Lots of cool places there where to eat, to have a drink. And I also definitely to recommend to stay at the Wohngemeinschaft. It's super complicated to pronounce the name of that hostel, but I loved it. Honestly, it's one of the most original hostels I've stayed in. Like every room has a different theme, the invented story around them. You should definitely check it out. I put the links in the show notes. But now it's time for me to rest a bit in my train to Hamburg and be in better shape to meet Lilith's co-founder, Alex, tomorrow. Bye and see you in the next episode.